Welcome to the French Drain Man channel. I'm Robert Sherwood, your host, and we are going to take you guys along for a ride on a 300-foot French drain installation. So we're going to ride along with Francisco, veteran excavator operator. He's going to show us how he does it when he's in the seat swinging our track hoe. So this is the main trunk line. It goes down the side of the house. We pick up 5 drops. So we got 5 downspouts tied into this trunk line. We actually have a monster system going on here. It is really, really a big system. We have a yard that's shaped in the front yard like a bowl. So we have to catch all the water up there. We did that before lunch, so that part of the system is done. It's complete. So now we have to take care of this main trunk line. There is a little contributory to the Rouge River here in Michigan that we're going to be able to daylight and let the water just dissipate to the contributory that's in the backyard here. This is in beautiful Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Now, you'll notice this after I point it out, but when you drive by any construction crew where they have a man swinging an excavator, there is always a guy on the ground helping with identifying utilities, sprinklers in our case, a lot of sprinkler lines, and just so many unknowns, things that you just would never ever think would ever be there. You know, a lot of homeowners put in gas or electric, and then 10, 15 years down the road, they forget that there's a line running there. You know, whether it's to feed a barbecue or a lantern, whatever the case may be, we have to look out for all that stuff. And on a regular basis, we come across it. The guys do a fantastic job of not making work for themselves. So believe it or not, Francisco relies on, more than anybody right now in this scenario, is Valente down in the trench. He has a great relationship with the man on the ground, and they communicate constantly so that Francisco always knows what's happening down in the trench, and we don't have any expenses, because that's what ends up happening. If you hit something and you don't have a man spotting for you, what happens? Well, that homeowner is going to look at you and say, you cut my barbecue gas line. The point is, we have to keep the company profitable. For everybody to come to work the next day and for their job to be there and to have a job in place for them, we have to keep the company profitable. So if we go out and we come across unmarked utilities and we hit them and we cause all kinds of, just cost overrun for the company, you can only do that so many times before the company is no longer profitable. And now nobody has a place to go. What I mean by that is that business will end up getting dissolved, and, all the employees would have to move on somewhere else. I've been in business 35 years. I'm a veteran excavation company, have been, just literally from the time I was 8 years old. I was, picking up shovels, and, it's always been my thing. So I'm not going anywhere, but all the young guys that are watching this, you have to make sure you're profitable. A lot of people have a hard time understanding indirect overhead from direct overhead. So direct overhead is super easy. You literally just add up what everybody's wages is. Literally, okay, this is what the company paid out, in wages and matched taxes and all that. And then you say, okay, I went through so many coils of pipe, so and X many fittings, so it's super easy to isolate the material for that job. And then you're like, okay, we filled up in the morning and we burned off, $250 in diesel fuel to get to Bloomfield Hills and back. And these are just direct overhead examples. Those are easy. That's what everybody sees. What people don't see are the indirect costs to the company. You have girls in the office, and if you're taking care of them, and you're treating them right, they're making a good living for themselves and providing for their families, contributing at their household. So that's indirect overhead. In our case, we have several girls at the office answering phones, questions, things like that. We're busy. We need at least 3 people in the office answering phones. And that's indirect overhead. So the office rent, indirect overhead. The office utilities, indirect overhead. I mean, worn out tires, a new starter. I mean, the ditch witch payments, the Kubota payments, all indirect overhead. So a really good businessman knows how to add up all that indirect overhead and then come up with a percentage of each job that literally goes to indirect overhead. And then you get to see what true profit is for the company. And you'll be surprised when you do this, how little the profit margin is. And that's why you just have to do a high volume of work. And, that's what we do. We set out to do, a couple of jobs a day. In a case like this where we're doing a 300-foot French drain with a near 100-foot discharge with, a 6-inch trunk line. I mean, that's enough for a day. I mean, and it's a big job. It's a really good size residential job. So Francisco's doing an excellent job here, showing you guys how he communicates with the guys in the ditch witches, riding on the ditch witches. And you got a Valente on the ground, boots in the trench. And there's constant communication going on with these guys, and they're all pretty much in sync. They have a really good rhythm. If they don't, this job doesn't get done. So it's super important that you have a crew that just syncs up, and they just lock in, and everybody knows their job. Okay, so what I did here, and I will get you a topographical view here, and just hang on for that. But what I did here is I have the main trunk line, and in Bloomfield Hills, it lives up to its name. It's not flat, it's rolling, ridges, valleys, all kinds of things going on. Beautiful, beautiful properties. We actually have a main trunk line, and then we got feeder pipes going up into what were sieves. And what a sieve is, when you got higher ground and you have all this water that leaches into the subsoil, and then all that pressure, it has to come out somewhere. So a hillside like this will all of a sudden produce a bunch of sieves. And it's just, there's probably a sand vein, gravel vein, something that made the path for the water to come up and out where it did. Water just takes the path of least resistance. So a little bit of sand or gravel, it'll travel through that small vein. And these sieves would run nonstop. It killed all the bluegrass, and a more like swamp-like grass is what you can see took over. This is an early fall. It's a cold fall for us, so the grass isn't fully greened up. But you can see where it's browner in pooling areas. Those are sieves, and there's no oxygen in the soil, so it killed all the bluegrass, and the swamp grass ends up growing. So it's pretty easy for me to see what's going on when I walk a job. And in this case, I just told the gentleman I want to go up off the trunk line and add a little more to this job. I added about 40 feet on the final marking of this job and said, let's go up and grab, these sieves, and just, grab that water right where it's coming up and out, and then put an end to this. Because the entire time this gentleman's lived at this home, this has always been a really wet, it's a problem area, has been a problem area, historically. And, we're taking care of this once and for all. He will not be burdened with this again. All right, so on this job, we filled 2 20-foot gooseneck dump trailers. So there's a lot of haul out. When we rolled out of here, we were heavy. I mean, both dump trailers were maxed out, but that's why we have 20-foot dump trailers, because we don't want to go all the way to Bloomfield Hills and then have to come back, dump, and then go back out there. And if you work the west side, you know that there's no place to dump. There's no landscape yards. The property, they wanted to keep the property just residential and just beautiful estate homes. They did not want any of that industrial or commercial zoned property on the west side. So it's rare. It's rare to come across a place you can dump. It's rare that you can come across a landscape yard for, say, stone. So we got to come in with all the stone we need, and we got to go out with all the clay when we travel, distances as far as Bloomfield Hills from where we dispatch. Now, something worth noting, because I've had a lot of guys on the channel make mention of this, and I'm really glad you guys go ahead and get in the comments sections and take your years of experience and knowledge and give your opinion. We absolutely love it and encourage it. But the guys, they have pointed out, hey, when you can run a small excavator like this, as well as Francisco, then you're a whiz in a big one. Because a big one, everything's so much smoother. It just glides. And you can take the best operator of a big machine, put him in a mini, and it could humble him because it's choppy and jumpy. It's just a small, short machine, and the movements happen quick. The swings happen quick. And Francisco's got this thing just, running silky smooth. Again, this is just a testament to how many, hours, days, and years he's spent as an equipment operator. So if you're a young contractor at heart and you're watching this and you're like, hey, I want to do that when I grow up, it's pretty cool. Keep in mind, as a machine operator, you just want to be relaxed. You just want to be relaxed, and you want to be loose on all the controls. You're going to do this for hours, so you can't be white-knuckling the controls, things like that. You just have to leave your cell phone in your truck. Don't take it with you, because as a machine operator, you need to give whatever it is you're doing your full attention. Now, Francisco, he's got a man down in the trench. He's swinging this arm. He's got to know where Valente is. He's got to keep an eye on him. If he moves, Francisco's got to be aware that, hey, Valente just stepped forward to basically, dig some dirt off of a sprinkler line so it could be seen and caught and not cut. So these are things that I point out because, in the industry, it happens all the time. A guy's not paying attention. A guy's not looking. The operator didn't realize that he moved, and then they swing the excavator arm, and, it can be, it can create injury, and it can be fatal. And it's unfortunate that something as simple as just a swinging excavator arm has, caused people, injury as well as a fatal incident. So that's why I bring this up, because we have a ton of young contractors watching our content, and even young guys that are like, hey, like I said, when I grow up, I want to do this. And you have to really be focused. You can't be on speakerphone and talking about the video game that you're up playing late or whatever. I'm just saying, you got to be locked in. You got to be focused. And, you can see that Francisco's not answering his cell phone. He's not doing anything but focusing on the man in the trench, the guys in the ditch witches, and the task at hand. It has his full undivided attention, is what I'm trying to say. And this is what all operators need to do. They need to make sure that they're giving this type of a machine their undivided attention to make sure that everybody's safe on the job. You want to keep everybody safe, and he is communicating with everybody. He's talking with Valente. He's talking with the ditch witch operators. They're moving plywood around. They're communicating so they all know what the other is doing. That is key. You need a group that works really well together and a group that's really good at communicating with one another. You can see how Valente is cleaning the trench. That's really important. If you're working a trench for an excavation job like this, we need flat bottoms. We have to have real flat bottoms. So when you have breakout in clay, this excavator causes all kinds of, just clay globs to fall to the bottom of the trench, because when you cut it, you have a certain amount of breakout. The bucket hooks clay, and then clay don't cut clean like some other soil qualities like sand and things like that. It's not going to cut like that. Clay, you have a breakout, you hook it, the bucket goes into the clay, and you pull up. The breakout's always bigger in the bucket. People ask all the time, what size bucket are you guys running? It depends on how the clay's breaking out for that day. I've seen a 9-inch bucket give you 18 inches of breakout, depending on the situation. But to answer that question the best that I can, we predominantly use a 9-inch, a 12-inch, and a 14-inch bucket. And we do have, for when we need it, we do have some specialty buckets as well. We have a 36-inch ditching bucket. We do have an 18-inch bucket, a 24-inch bucket, and those are for when we're putting in leach fields, Michigan leach fields, and if we can get away with a dry well. It's a little harder to get away with a dry well and clay. Usually we have to build our leach fields. But on this job, we had a 9-inch bucket, and look at all the breakout we got. Look how big that trench is. And that yellow pipe that you see, that's 6-inch. We got a 6-inch trunk line, and we're tying everything into it. Look at that. So we have D-boxes everywhere, just so if there's ever any issues, it's super easy to service. It's not a problem. This is a beautiful topographical view of this main trunk line down the side of this house, coming around off of the front of the house, down to the side of the house. And you can see how we reached up into those areas to grab the sieves so that they're just not completely saturating this hillside. This is 300 feet of French drain system with just a little under 100 feet of discharge. This is a big system, and this will tighten this yard right up. These are all the lowest elevations of this yard. So this is where you're going to collect water. This is where you're going to catch water. We always try to put our system in the lowest point of the property. So with a 9-inch bucket, it looks to me like the guy's got, about 16 inches of breakout. They got a pretty good sized trench there. And, trying to answer this question, and I get a lot, what size bucket? Start with a 9-inch and see what kind of breakout you get. If you're not happy with the width because the breakout isn't enough, go up to a 12. All right, everybody, until the next video.